One of the interesting things about not having power, we are on day 6, and I just wanted to record this because this was just a thought that God just laid on my heart. And we think about all of the different, let's start with what makes being in an outage hard. So, what makes being out of an outage hard is, of course, your normal routine and things like that. But what else is really difficult for about it, in which we are thankful that we have what we have and that we still have access to some things, even if we don't personally have it, they are within reach. We can go to the store and buy certain things, but if anything requires refrigeration or to be heated, those are things that just won't work for us in this time. You have people that are literally having water airlifted to them. So I'm most certainly not saying we're in dire straits at all. But I did want to talk about some of the things that we we get used to, and just thinking about things from a different perspective, being in it for this long. This is personally the longest outage I've ever experienced. And one of the things that's really difficult, or I shouldn't even say difficult, one of the things that's challenging, right? One of the things that's challenging is all the decisions that are typically made easily that are no longer easy to make. So things like, what are we going to do for lunch? It's no longer just an easy, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to take something out of the fridge, I'm going to microwave it, we have leftovers. I prepped some stuff, or I'll just, swing through a drive-through. We don't do that much anyways, and we got some baked potatoes the other day from Wendy's, and it took us about 25 minutes to get 3 baked potatoes just because the line was wrapped around and they're so short-staffed because there's still so many people in our area who don't have power themselves, or the gas was backed up for so long. People were coming from a different state, literally a different state, to wait an hour or 2 hours in line just to fill up their gas tank or their gas jug for like their generator and things like that. So the difficulty is not just not the normalcy of things and the normal routine of things, but the other difficulty is all of the decisions that you have to make. So if you've ever heard the term decision fatigue, this is one of those scenarios where you're tired because, yes, it is pretty warm outside. We are, and we're in October 2nd, but it is still not cool here yet. We're getting a little bit more of a breeze, but we're in a much hotter, warmer climate in the United States. And because of that, it is really hot outside. And that kind of, can make you a little irritated. I'm not going to lie, when you get a little hot, just doing regular things. And then the lack of actual light, and I've just got to say, that is what I have found most challenging in this time. We have a laundromat, so my husband just went to wash all of our clothes. So like I said, we still have access to things, but the difficult part is the decision fatigue of the things that typically take care of themselves, things that were easier, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes, are no longer easy. So your sleeping routine is different, and you're hot, but you don't want to sleep with the windows open because, well, I don't do bugs very well. But not just that, I don't want somebody crawling into my window at night. Just being real. And then there are just like the other things that are a little disconcerting, like hearing sirens. I'm not joking. What seems like every 30 to 45 minutes. So that's also like, oh, what's going on over there? Or is that a good sign? That just usually just those things that kind of are disconcerting is the best way that I can put it. But that's what's most challenging is the decision fatigue of it in the midst of all the things that have changed as far as routines go. And this also made me think of something else, and it was, if you're in a scenario where you're in just a different place than you usually are, whether that is literally, physically, or if that's just emotionally, you have some things coming at you in different directions that are causing you to kind of shift from your equilibrium and your balance state. You feel like you just feel challenged with things that are going on around you. Some of the other things that have stuck out to me, and I hope that this can be an encouragement to someone, is I was just thinking about Jesus going into the wilderness and all the times that Jesus would go off and pray to his Father. And I thought about this, and I thought about it in very literal terms. Being on the outside of what's going on with everyone else in the culture and with the rest of the world has a way of the silence. I was thinking the other night, the first night when we were trying to go to sleep, we're used to a fan, if you have a noise machine of some kind, you might be used to that. And you're used to these noises that kind of drown out other things. And our lives are kind of like that. We can have so much going on that it drowns out all the things that are currently going on that you just didn't pay attention to, or you just weren't as cognizant of because you had these other things that had your attention, or at least had your routine. So at night, one of the first nights, not only was it hot, right, but it was really, the silence was deafening. The silence was so loud. So for example, and I don't know if my husband was messing with me or what. If you know him in real life, you know he is a jokester, and he is witty and funny and does not miss an opportunity to get a laugh. And like, his timing is like, it's perfect. And he said the other night, I was telling him, I was like, did you not hear that owl the other night? He was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I know that it wasn't a regular bird. And whatever it was, obviously it was nocturnal, because we're talking about 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock in the morning. Ask me how I know. But I was like, it had to be an owl, but it wasn't saying hoot. I don't know what it was saying, but it was certainly an owl, but it was not saying hoot. And he said, well, the only owls that say hoot are hoot owls. And I don't know if he's messing with me or not. I didn't want to spend my cell phone battery Googling that. So somebody look that up for me. It just made me think, we are constantly aware of everything going on in the world, or aware of our routine, and really focused on that routine. And it made me think, this is why Jesus went aside. This is why Jesus went aside. This is why he went where there was quiet. Why? So he could hear. And I think that one of the things that I'm learning from this, and I don't know, maybe you're like this too, I don't know, but these things, these life events, and they tend to get my attention and have me think about things differently, or maybe I'm just more acutely aware. And that's the point, and that's what I wanted to share, because I think that it's really easy to go about our lives, and we have our routine, and we have this time of normalcy, and we are blessed, obviously. But what if some of the things that we are filling our lives and our days with are distracting us from things that actually need our attention, that are there all along, but we're just not cognizant of them because of all of the things that are part of our day, part of our routine, part of our life, part of our lifestyle, and that we, in a sense, have become numb, or have become deaf in a sense. So I think that this is true spiritually. We can let a lot of things into our lives, and we can take a lot of things in, and we're consuming different things that aren't necessarily putting our attention in the right places. And I think that that's the point, right? That's the point of distractions. And I always say, Satan is he's not just a deceiver, but I think that he distracts us. If he can't get us to sin or to do something outright against God, or something that's outright, going to put us in hot water, so to speak, I think that he will distract us. And some of the things that we have an abundance of can be the very things that feel like blessings, which I don't think that material things and all those things are necessarily blessings anyways, in and of themselves. But what if those very things that we're quote unquote blessed with are the things that are distracting us? Distracting us from the things we need to be listening to and the things that we actually need to be consuming more of. And I think that maybe, possibly, I'm just kind of thinking all these things out loud and hoping that it blesses you to hear this in some way. A lot of the things that God lays on our hearts, that lays on my heart, I just know that I'm supposed to share it. And it's not because it's some deep thing that's going to give you some epiphany that's going to change your life. I don't know. Honestly, I say this all the time. I don't know what God will use any of this for. But at the same time, back to the whole distracting and having these things that we are filled with. If you are, I think there's a proverb that says, to someone who's full, to someone who's hungry, basically they're open to eating anything. And for someone who's full, they don't have any desire for things apart from that. I'm paraphrasing. It's in Proverbs. You'll have to look it up. I don't have the time to do that right now. But, I have the time to do that, but, looking that up, I don't have as much power on my phone as I would like. But I just wanted to share that and just some of the things that I'm kind of pondering and thinking about as we're in the middle of this. And I've seen so many people online when I've looked up people that have been impacted by this weather front that we had called Helene, that some people have it, when I say dire straits, they're in dire straits. They are having water airlifted and brought to them. I've been following Samaritan's Purse, which that's a ministry that I absolutely love, and they're sharing all the different things of just different stories of people that they're on the ground, like boots on the ground, right, helping during the storm, where they're having to airlift water bottles into people who literally cannot get out of their community, who've lost their homes, that are truly just wondering where, talk about decision fatigue, talk about wondering where your next meal is going to come from, or your water is going to come from, or when you're going to get out of the situation that you're in. And it's just all these things are just colliding in my mind at this point, and I'm just thinking about all of them. But I wanted to just share this. If there's an opportunity for you, sometimes we are put in a position that, one, we wouldn't choose to be in, but two, that we would start taking notice of the things that maybe we're not noticing right now. Maybe it's so loud in your life with all the things that are around you or a part of your life that if for some reason those things stopped or they were interrupted, how do you deal with that? What do you learn from that? What do you glean from that? And I think that it's important that we glean from every single situation that we're in. And I'm always reminded that Jesus set aside time. He purposely, they were on their way to give more people the good news of the gospel. And they're going from town to town and they're basically sleeping wherever they can. And he and the disciples are going out and he's teaching them basically how to minister while he's teaching them at the same time in different parables and explaining to them on the side, like, hey, this is what this parable means. And he's going out and he's doing this teaching and this serving, and he's pouring out and pouring out and pouring out, right? His life, he came so that his life would be like an offering, that his life was an offering, rather. And they were taken from their comfort zone. And I think about that a lot. They were taken from their comfort zone to these faraway lands, and they were walking there, and there wasn't a lot of quote unquote comfort involved in the things that they were doing. And obviously, I'm not saying, I'm not comparing us to, I, I hope that you get where I'm going with all this. These are just things that I'm thinking about. And this is in no comparison to the things that they went without, or the things that other people are in dire straits going without right now, and just waiting for their next meal or their next water bottle or any of those things. But just really practically on a spiritual level, I just see that in my personal life, if everything comes to a halt that you're used to in your routine, how do you respond to that? What do you glean from that? What do you carry on in your life because of that? Do you learn anything from it? And I truly hope that I can learn in every scenario that I'm in. And sometimes for us, it's just being grateful. Sometimes it's when we get back to quote unquote normal, let's implement some things that maybe we didn't consider before. Maybe it's more time for rest. Maybe it's more time. I don't mean rest like physically. I meant rest from other things. Rest from distractions. Rest from entertainment. Rest from things that get our attention freely, that we freely give our attention to, that maybe doesn't deserve it, or maybe needs, that we should have less attention for certain things and more on other things. And it's interesting that when everything gets quiet, other things get really, really loud. So that's where I am right now, and that's what I wanted to share. And I hope that this can be, it even started, it got me thinking content wise, and things that I like to share and things that I think will be a blessing to you. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't always know what that is. I don't always know what that looks like. And sometimes it's like, yes, I want to share all the things that we're doing to still try to make healthy choices while we're in the middle of an outage and a blackout. We're on day 6 now of no power whatsoever. But thankfully, we do have gas powered utilities for our water, so we're able to take hot showers. But it's been really hot, so we've been taking kind of warm showers. But just so grateful to just to have that and the ability to filter our water. And we have, a couple of hours a day where we have our phone banks, where we have, power on those, where we can, go and plug those up or put those in the car when we go to get something and charge those up so we can keep our phones charged for, emergency purposes and things like that. And then at night, I do like to watch a little bit of renovation stuff, because that's my jam, or some sort of, you know what I'm saying, some sort of entertainment. But it is very purposeful. Like, even the things that I'm consuming are very purposeful. And I hope that, I did a video when the outage first happened, and I was just sharing some of the choices that I was making at the grocery store with what was available to us. And you can find that on my YouTube channel. But I just think that it's really important that we think about, I know that it's becoming more and more important and apparent to me, to just start thinking about what's getting my attention, how much attention it's getting, and just really trying to steward my time and steward the things that are in front of me and in my hands, and trying to make the best decisions that I can with that. And excuse the noise in the background because my kid is playing with his toys, and that's the other thing. Thank you, God. He thinks like this is an adventure. And it just made me think too of like that childlike, I don't know. He's not worried about where food's going to come from. He knows that we're going to take care of him. That's a whole other podcast in itself, of how he just knows he's going to be taken care of. And that's how, we should have childlike faith, right? That's how we should be with God. Anyways, I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I'm even able to record this. I don't know what it looks like going forward, but that's the point, right? We don't really know what's before us at any given point in time, but sometimes we just get really, really comfortable with the expectation that the light's just going to turn on if we flick the lights on, or that we've driven around and people have literal trees on top of their homes. It is I've never seen anything like it, and it is definitely a sight to behold, and it is definitely a perspective giver for sure. But wherever you are, I hope that you are well. I hope that you are not impacted by the storm. I prayed for everyone impacted by this storm, especially places in Tennessee and Western North Carolina and places in Georgia. And there's so many areas that have been impacted way worse than us. And in any situation, there is, I promise, there is something to be grateful for and thankful for, because someone somewhere always, always, always has things worse than you even think that you have them. And it's also an opportunity, if you can, to help other people, because there's always someone to help. Jesus said you will always have the poor with you, right? There's that perspective and that balance of there's always going to be someone to help. There's always going to be a scenario that needs help. There's always going to be a need for anything that God has given us to give to someone else. Maybe that's a word of wisdom. Maybe that is a word of encouragement. That is practical things like food and water and shelter and all of that. And I'm just so grateful. And I just wanted to share some of the things that are on my mind, some of the things that I'm learning. And I wanted to record this while I'm in the midst of it, as opposed to, something that I've gleaned after everything kind of quote unquote goes back to normal. But there are some things that I'm going to be implementing, that I'm going to be changing within my own life, and just an encouragement to you to look at your life and what's in front of you, and to see if you're managing and stewarding your time in a way that's most beneficial to those around you, to your walk with Christ, to the things that you have. And yeah, so that is what I wanted to share on this one. If this is something that you think can be helpful to someone else, be sure to pass it along. If you've never um, just left a review on the podcast, I would absolutely love to see that. I might start doing more audio podcasts like this, because it's just a lot easier to do. And obviously, I can't set up a camera right now. And um, I just hope that wherever you are, this can encourage you and bless you. Please leave a review for the podcast if you haven't yet. Excuse me. I'll be back with more podcasts and different things that God has given me or laid on my heart to share, because that's how all of this started anyways. And I'm just asking God right now for wisdom on going forth with everything, from my parenting and my homeschooling to the type of wife that I am, the type of friend that I am, all of those things. And obviously the content that I share, I always want it to be something that's going to challenge you to steward your life in the best way possible. That's going to be a blessing to those around you, but ultimately it's going to honor God with everything that you have. Until next time, your life matters. What you do, that matters. So what will you steward well?